Asahi is nothing but an intergalactic baboon who just happens to watch a fortune-telling program on television. Things fall apart when he heads to school and meets 5 girls with melons the sizes of all my ex's heads combined. And what's more insane is how they make all his fortunes come to pass. Asahi Kashiwagi, the kind of guy who can't catch a break, wakes up from a strange dream where he's pixelating into the void with a girl. He tumbles out of bed, and his home system, Loverin, a chirpy pink bird robot, offers to hit the snooze if he wants more sleep. Asahi tells Loverin to turn on the lights and settles in front of the TV to watch his favorite morning divination show. The diviner claims it'll be his lucky day, promising him exciting encounters and offering some cryptic keywords: corner, train, staircase, cleaning bot, and a letter. But before he can really take this in, Loverin informs him he's late, and he bolts out the door, sprinting toward the school. As he's running, he realizes he has more time than he thought, so he slows down, and bam! He collides with a curvy girl who crashes right into his chest. The position they end up in is every man's dream position to mistakenly land in. She's embarrassed, worried he saw her unflattering underwear, but he plays it cool, claiming he didn't get a glimpse, though my boy got an eyeful. She's relieved and rushes off, and Asahi quickly moves on to catch his train. The train is practically empty when he boards, but just as he settles in, a green-haired girl rushes in and decides to sit beside him, despite all the open seats. She dozes off and leans against him, and he tries his best to look anywhere but at her humongous chest endowment that just keeps calling his name. Before he knows it, she's clutching his hand in her sleep and pressing even closer to those sweet, humongous milk jugs she's got. Asahi's flustered, but the situation escalates when they end up in an accidental pile, and his hands land on her very, very soft and sweet-looking milk jugs. "I want some of those milks." She snaps half awake and launches a kick at him like a ninja, barely missing his head. Thoroughly shaken, he stumbles off the train, leaving her dazed and wondering if she dreamt the whole encounter. Next, Asahi reaches a staircase, one of the diviner's keywords. He starts doubting this so-called lucky day, but as he heads down, just when he thought he had made it through easily, nature had other sweet encounters for him. A girl coming from above slips and crashes into him. And this isn't just any fall, she literally plunged the heavens between her legs directly onto his face. Dazed and embarrassed, she opens her eyes to see Asahi's shocked face, and, let's just say, an unintended physical reaction. She freaks out, accuses him of being a pervert, and lands a solid knee where it hurts most. Just to give it more description, if you were a guy and you were there and saw where she hit him, you'd have felt it too. Trying to escape fate, he hides from the next keyword, the cleaning robot, only to have it find him anyway. This time, it's clutching a lacy bra. A girl spots him with it and accuses him of hacking the robot to snatch girls' underwear, calling him a certified pervert. Just as he's trying to explain, the cleaning bot takes things up a notch by grabbing the girl's skirt and tugging her away, despite her cries for help. Asahi just watches, too stunned to do anything. Barely making any headway, he encounters the next keyword, a dog. Thinking a small, fluffy pup can't hurt, he pets it. The dog leads him up a staircase, where he stumbles on an unreal scene, a girl getting humped by a much larger dog. She begs for his help, but as he tries to sneak away, the bigger dog comes for him too, giving him a thorough humping until he passes out from exhaustion. Now that's just one of the weirdest things I've seen all year. When he wakes up, some kids are staring at him like he's a zombie. Shaking off the humiliation, he hurries to St. Orphanus Academy, desperate to reach school in one piece. Finally, in class, he's given the classic protagonist seat in the back by the window. And as if fate had more surprises, every girl he's encountered that morning, plus a 5th one, the teacher, are all right there in his classroom. They introduce themselves, and it's a veritable roll call of embarrassing memories. There's Izumi, the girl who collided with him at the corner; Amelia, the cleaning bot mishap girl; Ilya, the one with the overexcited dog; Karen, the staircase incident girl; and finally, the teacher, Bai Mongfa, whom he dubs the Sumptuous, for obvious reasons. And, just in case the obvious reason passes you by, it's because of those sweet, sweet milk jugs. As the girls recognize him, their faces turn red, and before he knows it, they're giving him an unrequested face-slapping session. He's just about had it with the day already. During break, Asahi fills his friend Yoshio in on his disastrous morning. Yoshio is envious, saying he'd love to trade places with Asahi any day. They're in the boys' locker room, but oddly enough, Ilya, the dog incident girl who looks suspiciously like a guy, peeks in from behind a locker. Asahi's starting to wonder if she's really, he, or if there's a story behind the disguise. Meanwhile, in the girls' locker room, the other 3 girls vent about Asahi. They can't get over their traumatizing morning event, though Izumi sticks up for him, saying maybe he's not that bad after all. Later in PE class, Asahi's trying to play soccer while Yoshio is busy ogling the new girls from a distance. Yoshio clarifies something Asahi had mixed up. Turns out Ilya, the dog event girl, is actually acting as a guy for reasons you'll soon find out. Her soft features make it easy to tell, but I was dumb to think she was a guy, and I don't want to mislead you. Still reeling, Asahi spots a note poking out of his locker, the last keyword on the diviner's list. It's a love letter, but the wording makes it sound more like a threat. Unsure what to do, he decides to check it out after school. On his way out, he runs into Izumi. She jokes that this time they kulturai, didn't end up colliding, and asks if he saw anything that morning. He cluelessly pulls out the bra from the cleaning bot incident. Mortified, she slaps him again, hard enough to leave an impression. Asahi tries a vending machine, only to find it empty. Spotting Karin nearby, he offers her his last snack, a banana. No, not that kind of banana. He keeps an emergency banana just in case he's hungry. She's embarrassed but grateful, though her wording makes it sound a little suggestive. Asahi heads to the agreed meeting spot from the letter, finally deciding to confront his mystery admirer, and there she is, Izumi. She awkwardly apologizes for slapping him earlier, clarifying it was all a misunderstanding. She's flustered, and her underwear goes flying as she ends her speech with a confession. Asahi's so stunned he can't respond, and the underwear slips from his grasp, fluttering away in the wind as he stands there, trying his best to process what the F just happened. Izumi, taking the classic cherry tree love legend to heart, decides it's now or never and puts her feelings out there, plain and bold. A gust of wind lifts her skirt right in front of him, but she's too wrapped up in confessing to notice. Meanwhile, fine boy Asahi, realizing she forgot her undies, tries to keep his cool, but it's no use. She eventually sees the scene for what it is, blushes like a strawberry, and bolts off. Just as he's trying to catch his breath, Ilya and Bai, aka Bai the Sumptuous, pop up and throw their confessions his way too. But Bai goes one step further. She pulls him in and plants a kiss on him, and fine boy Asahi almost passes out on the spot. While he's still trying to process that wild moment, Karen shows up in a wedding dress, claiming she's ready to be his bride right there and then. She grabs his hand and drags him toward a hotel. Poor, confused Asahi is desperate. He pretends he's about to kiss her, and when she closes her eyes, he escapes in a flash. Things only get stranger from there. A girl in a mask shows up and hands him what she calls a questionnaire, which Asahi soon realizes is a marriage form. She dramatically reveals herself as Amy, eager to join the bride-to-be list. With his mind spinning, all Asahi wants is a slice of normal life. But when he arrives home, he's greeted by all the girls waiting for him, with a surprise recording from his dad. The recording reveals they're all potential brides, chosen specifically for him. To top it off, his house has magically expanded, much like the infamous Kame house from Dragon Ball, ready to accommodate all his new roommates. They set up a dinner so fancy, it looks like a royal feast, but things turn chaotic as each girl fights over who gets to feed him first. Plates, chopsticks, and spoons are flying, and Asahi is just trying to stay alive at this point. Hoping to escape, he heads to the bathroom only for Karen to follow him in. He has no choice but to give her a gentle but firm kick-out, sending her back into the hallway. Seeking a quiet moment, he finally gets into the bathtub, but Amy's already there, and he's not about to fall for her tricks. He sees through her antics and makes a quick exit. Later, when he finally crawls into bed, ready for some well-deserved sleep, he discovers Bai hiding in the ceiling. That's the last straw for our #1 virgin, Asahi. He's had enough and calls an emergency meeting, laying down the law and demanding some peace. But his protests fall on deaf ears, and in frustration he storms out of the house. Asahi barely makes it down the street when Izumi catches up to him, explaining why she and the others want to be around him. She says he has a power to change their fates, which is why they feel so drawn to him. She apologizes and begs him to return, and after seeing her sincerity, Asahi agrees to come back home, telling the girls that they can stay. The next morning, Asahi wakes up to Amy trying to stamp a marriage application with his toe, as if that'll somehow make them official. Izumi, meanwhile, is all about showing off her cooking skills, setting up breakfast with way too much enthusiasm. Amy on her own has problems bigger than her melons to deal with. She's still struggling with kanji, so her attempt to write names in ketchup on her omelet comes out looking like ancient runes, and Asahi can't stop laughing. In class, the teacher announces a kanji practice assignment. Karin, of course, does great, showing off as usual. But Amy? Her attempts are a mess, and the whole class laughs at her wild mistakes. At lunchtime, poor Asahi tries to hide on the rooftop with his friend Yoshio, the only one who knows about Asahi's bizarre situation. Yoshio, filled with envy, complains about his sad cold sandwich while Asahi munches on Izumi's carefully packed, way too love-filled meal. That night, strange clapping sounds echo from Amy's room. Worried, Asahi barges in, only to find Amy sitting with a pile of kanji books, clapping her hands for encouragement and muttering words like a spell. She's desperate to impress Asahi and do well on the upcoming test. And while Asahi feels she's overdoing it, he can't help but offer a hand. They end up studying together, and he realizes, for all the craziness, these girls actually care about him in their own weird ways. It turns out Amy's been reading too many bizarre kanji books, probably ones hidden in the back shelves of the library. Because of this, she knows all sorts of rare words but still struggles with the basics. Every free moment, she's got her nose buried in books, either in the library or her room, fully focused on mastering kanji like she's training for some secret mission. One day, Asahi catches Amy in the library, completely zoned into a book. Concerned, he suggests maybe she doesn't have to push herself so hard. But Amy's inner drama queen awakens, and she gives a tearful speech, channeling her inner Sakura Haruno from Naruto, saying it's all pointless if she doesn't give her absolute best. She bolts out, skipping dinner, and locks herself in her room, crying. Our reluctant hero, Asahi, heads to her room to check in. Inside, he finds her in tears, feeling like she's failed. Asahi pats her head gently and offers her a little notebook he put together with simple study tips just for her. It's so sweet it makes Amy laugh for the first time in a while, and she thanks him, touched. Meanwhile, the rest of the girls have been eavesdropping at the door. When Asahi opens it, they tumble inside like Team Rocket after another failed attempt at capturing Pikachu. Now worried Amy's gaining ground with Asahi, they decide they're going to step up their game too. The competition heats up, with kanji characters plastered all over the house, looking like a page out of Death Note or a scene from Jujutsu Kaisen with all the intense writing everywhere. Amy's dedication finally pays off, and she scores higher on her next test. She says there's still a lot of room for improvement, but her happiness shows. And Asahi, despite all the madness, feels just a little proud of his strange, crazy new life. Life goes back to normal until the bridal candidates win a hot spring trip from a street raffle. They drag poor, dumb Asahi along, and the group sets off, but Ili, who's secretly a girl, feels anxious. Her father made her live as a boy before he passed away, so she's been hiding her true self this whole time. At the hot spring inn, each girl fights for a chance to room with Asahi, but he decides to share with Ili. Finally alone, Asahi treats Ili like any regular guy friend, not knowing her real identity. Later, the girls beg Asahi to referee their table tennis match. Bai, the sumptuous, goes full-on warrior. Her moves are like something out of Attack on Titan, or maybe even Spy X Family's Your Forger. She smashes the ball so hard that Karen's clothes practically explode, leaving her in utter shock. When it's time to clean up for the hot springs, Asahi heads to the men's changing room, casually undressing, while Ili starts to panic. Spotting a Tengu mask, she quickly puts it on, mumbling some excuse about being super hairy and too shy to be seen. Clueless as ever, Asahi offers to rub her back, and Ili's heart races as she tries to keep her cover. To cool things down, she suggests they go to the sauna, but she barely lasts in the heat and starts feeling faint. Asahi, thinking that toughing out the heat is manly, runs off to the indoor hot springs to cool down. When Asahi finally goes to check on Ili, he finds her in the full Tengu mask disguise. It's a weird sight, and the girls who are spying on the scene are stunned by Ili's strange appearance. Freaked out, Asahi makes a run for it, but Ili, trying to stay in character, slips and passes out, her mask flying off in the chaos. When she wakes up, Asahi is by her side. She realizes her secret is out, so she explains her story. Asahi, the ever kind-hearted fool, reassures her that it's okay to be herself. His gentle words warm her heart, bringing back memories of a little boy who looks a lot like Asahi. The next day, the girls gather, excitedly talking about the Tengu they saw. Asahi and Ili listen, both blushing at the memory. But Asahi can't help but chuckle, finally seeing the humor in this whirlwind of a trip. Meanwhile, Bai the sumptuous, who's usually a gentle teacher, has a wild side when she drinks. That night, the disgusting virgin Asahi finds a stranger waiting in his room. This guy is an enemy of Bai's, and he set up a trap, kidnapping poor fine boy Asahi as bait to lure her in. Bai, realizing something's up, charges in to save him. They're surrounded by enemies, but Bai, in full hero mode, channels her inner Natsu Dragneel and starts fighting like she's straight out of a battle anime. She takes down enemy after enemy, all on her own. But just when they're about to escape, they hit a snag. The elevator's out of order. Not even hesitating, Bai grabs Asahi and starts scaling the building like it's no big deal. They reach the top, catching their breath, but then the big guy shows up again, still hungry for revenge. A fight breaks out, and it's chaos. Bai ties him up with steel wire, managing to escape with Asahi, but not before he gets hurt in the process. Bai, thinking fast, rips her skirt and wraps it around his injury to stop the bleeding. Asahi's a little lost in all the action, but he finally gets that Bai actually cares for him, as odd as her timing might be. When they make it down to the ground floor, they're met with even more enemies. Bai picks up a gun and starts defending Asahi like a seasoned warrior. The fight is intense, with Bai taking down enemy after enemy. Just when it seems like they're safe, the strongman returns. Only now he's part machine, like some crazed villain from Full Metal Alchemist. He charges at Bai with full force, pushing her to her limits. Bai's running out of steam, and it looks like things are going south fast. But then, out of nowhere, the disgusting virgin Asahi, who's been hiding nearby, decides it's time to act. Channeling a bit of Kirito from Sword Art Online, he grabs a fire extinguisher and tosses it at the strongman as a distraction. Bai sees her chance, but the enemy's relentless, so Asahi has to get creative. While scrambling, he finds a bottle of lubricant, covers himself with it, and now he's as slippery as a greased-up pig at a fair. The strongman tries to grab him but can't get a hold, slipping off each time. With a final quick move, Asahi throws the remaining lubricant all over the enemy and then shocks him with a stun rod, giving Bai the opening she needs to end the fight. She hits him with a powerful blow, finally bringing the battle to a close. Although she can't resist nagging Asahi about his risky tricks, she's secretly moved and hugs him, grateful for his help. Back home, they collapse on the couch, too exhausted to move. The other girls walk in and see Bai and Asahi lying close together, looking like they've had a long night of fun. Furious, the girls start accusing Bai of hogging the disgusting virgin Asahi all to herself, their jealousy firing up as they glare at the two sprawled on the couch. Asahi soon finds himself attacked again, this time by a robot he's never seen before. Metal limbs moving like it's ready to crush him. He's about to get flattened when, out of nowhere, a beautiful magical girl appears, unleashing a burst of power to destroy the robot in one shot. Then, like Sailor Moon after a big win, she vanishes, leaving the disgusting virgin Asahi starry-eyed and awestruck. He rushes to tell his friend Yoshio, who just laughs and says he's dreaming. But carrying on, Asahi's caught up in his excitement when Karin suddenly arrives, making a grand entrance and inviting Asahi to clap the daylight out of her with all the confidence in the world. But then, before Asahi can process any of that, a huge floating machine appears outside the window, casting a shadow as it sends out an army of robots. The chaos unfolds fast. Bai charges in to save Asahi, but poor Yoshio gets shot, and, let's just say he won't be having kids anytime soon. Then Ely rushes in, announcing that Karin is missing. Asahi panics, racing around to find her, and eventually spots her on the rooftop. But Karin isn't just Karin. She's transformed into the magical girl from before, with a talking rabbit at her side. This rabbit, serious as a general, is pushing Karin to act fast. Karin says she needs help, but it's a bit unconventional. To boost her powers, she needs some, let's say, close contact. She asks Asahi to handle her melons, to get some magical energy flowing. Asahi hesitates, but the rabbit decides it's time for a bit of a push and shoves him right into Karin. The contact recharges her like a lightning bolt, and she's back in action, flying into battle against the floating machine. However, her strength doesn't last, and before long, she's out of energy again, collapsing into Asahi's arms. While hiding out, Karin and the rabbit explain everything. Turns out, these robots aren't just here for kicks. They're out to destroy the world. They already demolished the rabbit's home planet, and he escaped to Earth, finding Karin, the only human who could see him, a bit like how Madoka could see QB in Puella Magi Madoka Magica. The rabbit gave her magical powers, but Karin realizes it's not as easy as she thought. The big bad here is the floating machine, controlling the other robots, and Karin's mission is to take it down. The rabbit takes them to his car, where he tells Karin that she'll need a lot more power if she wants to beat these bots. But here's the twist. She needs some serious romantic energy, and the fastest way to get that is to, well, clap herself and Asahi into next week. The car even has a little meter to show her energy level, so there's no escaping the mission now. Once the rabbit leaves, Karin decides to dive right in, and she starts undressing, thinking this is the only way. But the disgusting virgin Asahi, still the world's biggest innocent, stammers and suggests trying other ways to get that magic flowing. They try hand-holding, hugs, and anything else they can think of, but nothing works. Realizing Karin doesn't really feel that kind of love for him, Asahi suggests that maybe even if they slept together, it wouldn't make a difference. Karin, of course, doesn't take that lying down. She's determined to make this work, and she pushes Asahi down, ripping his clothes like they're made of paper, looking like she's straight out of Hard X Hybrid, where clapping equals recharging. Meanwhile, the other girls happen to pass by, hearing Asahi's desperate calls. They look around, suspicious, but find nothing and walk off. Carrying on, Asahi suddenly feels a strange power, with his eyes glowing red for just a moment. Struggling, he manages to push Karen away, telling her she deserves someone who truly loves her, and that he'd be sad if she did something she'd regret. His sincerity catches her off guard, and just as he's about to leave, he runs out to draw the robots away, giving her a chance to escape. Karen, shocked by his selflessness, finally realizes her real feelings for him. This genuine love fills her energy meter, and she transforms into her final magical girl form, ready for the fight. She launches an attack that wipes out all the robots closing in on Asahi, and then takes aim at the floating machine, determined to end the threat for good. The battle's intense, with Karen struggling against the machine's power, but just as she's almost defeated, Asahi jumps in, hugging her to recharge her magic. With one last powerful blast, she destroys the floating machine completely. When it's all over, Karen heals everyone injured in the battle, including Asahi, with her remaining magic, returning to her usual self. Asahi, anxious, checks if she's okay, and in that moment, a little boy who looks like him flashes through her memory. Overcome, Karen blushes and runs off shyly, while in the distance, shadowy figures begin to plot something new. Fine boy Asahi dreams of being on a beach with a sweet girl named Ai. They look up at the stars, and she says she wants to stay with him forever. It's all romantic and dreamy until, bam, he's yanked out of the dream by Ely, who tells him that Yoshio's invited them to a real beach trip. They all get ready, even though everyone knows Yoshio's just hoping for some kind of clap adventure with Asahi. But then, Yoshio somehow has an accident, and no one seems all that worried about it. At the beach, the girls are already in their swimsuits, splashing around and competing with each other to get Asahi's attention. There's even a sign saying swimsuits aren't allowed, so they decide to follow the rule and strip down, giving foolish Asahi quite the unexpected surprise. They mess around, burying him in the sand and blindfolding Bai, who they tell to smash a watermelon near him. Somehow, Asahi manages to dodge the near disaster, and he practically feels like he's had a brush with the afterlife. As the evening rolls in, the girls start disappearing one by one. Asahi looks around, thinking maybe they've all just gone home without him. He heads back and finds only Izumi waiting for him. When he asks about the other girls, his mind goes fuzzy, and he can't remember their names. Izumi's acting strange, though, and she casually suggests they have dinner together. Asahi feels like something's off, but she won't say anything more. Later, Izumi takes him for a walk in the nearby woods, leading him to a massive cherry tree. Under its branches, she suddenly confesses her love for him. Asahi's mind is all over the place, though, still wondering about the other girls. Izumi seems frustrated and pushes him down, saying that the only thing that matters is that they're together. She leans in, ready to kiss him, but then Asahi's brain lights up like fireworks, and he suddenly shouts the names of the other girls. Izumi sighs, disappointed, and her form starts to dissolve into a swirl of cherry blossom petals. From those petals, Ai appears again, looking sad but still calm. She tells Asahi she wants to stay with him forever, but knows it's a dream that can't happen. She asks him never to come back to this place before turning and running off, leaving fine boy Asahi standing there, totally confused and lost. Virgin Asahi suddenly finds himself floating in a glowing world of codes, like a scene straight out of Sword Art Online, or the strange landscapes of Log Horizon. When he wakes up the next morning, he feels totally blank, like Kirito after too much time in a virtual game with no clue what happened the day before. The house is eerily empty, kind of like a creepy time loop in Steins Gate, but he just shrugs it off and heads to school, thinking the girls have already left. Little does he know, his mom is watching him from another room, like she's a mysterious character from Higurashi When They Cry. At school, something's wrong. It feels all wrong. Asahi looks around and gets the strange feeling he's in a different world, like in The Melancholy of Haruhi Suzumiya. None of the students know him, and he doesn't recognize any of them either, like he's trapped in Rei, where he's been thrown into a weird new timeline. Then, out of nowhere, this odd woman named Yoshi, who acts like a female Okabe from Steins Gate, walks up to him and claims he's got some memory issues. She drags him to her lab for a little checkup. In the lab, Yoshi finally lets him in on the shocking truth, and boy, it's a plot twist right out of nowhere. She tells him, drumroll please, that he's been living in a VR world all along. The girls he knew, all just AI creations designed to act like real people, mimicking human emotions. Just like the AI and plastic memories, they were made to feel and understand love, but the experiment went sideways. Asahi's mind is blown. His whole world shatters like one of those crushing realizations in Erased. He's having a full-on meltdown, but then pieces of his memories start slipping back in, and he realizes Yoshi might be right. Then Yoshi's boss steps in and admits she got fired for all her messed up experiments. It turns out there's this mysterious doctor behind it all who made an AI by copying his dying daughter's mind into the system. And guess what? Her name was Ai too, the same Ai who was his childhood sweetheart. Now it all makes sense. And the disgusting virgin. Asahi's heart breaks all over again. In a rush of emotions, he sprints to her grave, tears pouring out like every sad moment in Clannad, feeling like he's lost everything, even though he was only in the VR world for a day. As Feynman walks through the plaza, she's shocked to see Ahoy's face suddenly appear on the big screen. In seconds, Ahoy's image fills every screen in sight as she takes over the entire network, throwing the human world into chaos. Back at the Institute, the researchers scramble, desperate to stop Ahoy from interfering further, but they just can't figure it out. Feynman's colleague knows that if anyone understands Ahoy, it's Feynman, so he goes to ask for her help. He tells her that they've received a message from Ahoy saying, "I want to see you." Feynman instantly guesses that Ahoy really wants to see Asahi. Hoping to fix things, she approaches Asahi and suggests he go back to the VR world to help bring Ahoy back to normal. Asahi, who's just returned from visiting the grave of his childhood sweetheart, AI, hesitates, remembering AI's advice to stay away from the VR world. While Asahi is lost in thought, a clock robot in his room starts glitching and projects a video clip on the wall. To Asahi's surprise, it shows the girls he'd met in the VR world, all there except for Ahoy. It turns out the girls sensed what was happening and found a way to hide from Ahoy's control before she took over the VR world. Now, through the clock robot, they reach out to Asahi, asking him to help Ahoy. They can sense that Ahoy is in deep pain, and seeing their familiar faces, Asahi realizes his feelings for them are real, even if they're AI. As he's about to respond to the girls, the projection suddenly shuts down. Right then, Feynman gets a call from her colleague, informing her that the director of the Institute has ordered the removal of all AI from the world. With so many AIs to erase, it'll take time, but Asahi realizes he has to act fast. If he doesn't stop Ahoy soon, the girls he cares about could disappear forever. Determined, Feynman leads Asahi to an old lab that belonged to AI's father. This lab holds the only computer that can access the VR world directly. In the lab, Feynman quickly works the controls, preparing the program to send Asahi back. She suddenly remembers that Ahoy once told her she longed for a real relationship. With Asahi leaving the VR world, Ahoy lost her chance at that dream, which drove her to this state. Feynman now understands that only Asahi can truly reach Ahoy's heart and bring her back from the edge. Asahi feels a mix of fear and determination. He knows that returning to the VR world could mean he might never come back to reality. But with Feynman's guidance, he decides to go through with it, ready to do anything to protect Ahoy and the other girls. Taking a deep breath, he lets his consciousness drift, plunging into darkness as he re-enters the VR world to save Ahoy once and for all. Asahi opens his eyes and is surprised to see that his alarm robot has followed him into the VR world. It turns out that Feynman built this alarm robot to help him navigate the VR world. She communicates with him through the robot and leads him to a square, but the alarm robot is a bit of a hassle to use, so Feynman quickly changes it into Yoshio's form. Asahi remembers that last time he entered the VR world, Feynman was watching him while disguised as Yoshio. Suddenly, a bunch of sweeping robots appears and forces Asahi and Yoshio to log off. Yoshio takes Asahi to a room in the VR world where Amelia, Irina, Manfa, and Karen are hiding. But the moment they arrive, they realize they aren't wearing any clothes, which causes the girls to attack them out of embarrassment. Asahi quickly gets dressed, and Yoshio transforms into the rabbit that helped Karen become a magical girl. While the girls are talking, Feynman explains that the Institute has launched a program controlling all the robots in the VR world. These robots are tasked with destroying all the AI and kicking everyone out of the VR world. If Asahi gets caught, his brain will be damaged. They need to dodge the robots and find Ahoy fast. Feynman has been keeping an eye on the VR world and notices that Ahoy has left a passage just for Asahi. Feynman thinks that if they enter the passage, they can find Ahoy. She quickly guides Asahi and leads them to a building where Asahi and Manfa fought together earlier. As they explore the building, they run into a lot of humanoid robots. Feynman uses the rabbit to transform the girls into magical girls, giving them incredible powers. But the rabbit can't fight, and it's quickly attacked. Asahi falls into the hall with the rabbit to protect it. While there, he remembers that the rabbit had led Karen to him and starts questioning if the girls' encounters with him were all set up by Feynman. When he gets an answer from Feynman, he feels disappointed. Feynman tries to comfort him, saying that the girls have real feelings for him now, but it doesn't ease his pain. Monfa, who's been fighting, is the first to notice that Asahi is gone. She hears him talking to Feynman and searches for him, but there's no time for comfort because a group of robots attacks them. The strong man who once fought Monfa appears in the group of robots. The girls, despite their magical powers, are outnumbered by the robots, who have been upgraded by the researchers. Slowly, the girls start losing ground, and even the rabbit is destroyed. Just when things seem hopeless, Asahi and the girls find the passage left by Ahoy. After a fight, Asahi and Monfa manage to open the door, and the others rush in, but the door can't be closed from the inside. Meanwhile, in the VR world, AI is suffering. Every day feels like a nightmare, and the only time she feels happy is when Asahi visits. But her condition gets worse, and she can no longer hide her illness with makeup. She's close to the end, and Monfa decides to stay behind and fight the robots alone, giving Asahi the chance to enter the passage. Monfa tells Asahi that when he saved her from the strongman, it helped her remember how Asahi had risked his life to protect AI years ago when they were children. That's when Monfa realized she loved him. She confirms that her feelings for Asahi are real and not created by the researchers. Now it's her turn to protect him. Monfa kisses Asahi and pushes him into the passage. Asahi tries to stop her, but only manages to grab one of her headbands. Outside the gate, Monfa fights with all her strength, recalling the time she spent with Asahi. She feels happy and at peace, knowing she has no regrets. Inside the gate, Asahi begins his next challenge. Asahi and the others watch as Monfa's hairband disappears into the air, and they realize she's gone. It hits them hard because Monfa was an important part of their group. They had lived together for so long, and losing her feels like a big blow, but there's no time to mourn. They have to find Ahoy as quickly as possible, so they move forward through the passage and end up at the school they used to go to. Before they can check things out, a robot attacks them. Karen sees Asahi is hurt and quickly uses magic to destroy the robot and hide them all in a classroom. The girls get mad at Asahi for pushing himself too hard, reminding him that if he gets too injured in the VR world, it'll hurt his real body too. They all forget that if they're hurt badly, they'll just disappear completely. Asahi points this out to them, and the room goes silent. Amelia then breaks the silence by using the tablet left by the rabbit. She finds a passage on the rooftop, close to Ahoy. They all head to the rooftop, and are shocked to see the VR world is in chaos and almost falling apart. The passage is surrounded by robots, making it seem impossible to get through. In this tough situation, Karen and Irina step up. They offer to act as bait to distract the robots and give Asahi and Amelia time to get into the passage. They know only Asahi has a chance to stop Ahoy, and Amelia has to guide him. The girls take to the sky and fight the robots, even though Asahi and Amelia don't want them to. Asahi knows they're running out of time and decides not to argue. He tells Karen and Irina to follow him after the fight and takes Amelia into the passage. But Karen and Irina have a secret plan. They destroy the switch at the entrance to the passage after Asahi and Amelia enter. They don't want the robots to follow them. The next stop for Asahi and Amelia is the library, where Asahi once helped Amelia study. Amelia starts thinking back to the time she struggled to learn kanji, and how Asahi encouraged her when she was frustrated. That was the moment Amelia realized she really liked him. Amelia's thoughts shift to AI's memories. AI once took in a lost puppy to take care of it and be a good master. She treated the puppy with so much care, but it was taken away by its old owner, leaving AI heartbroken. It was Asahi who comforted her, just like he did for Amelia. At the same time, Irina and Karen are still fighting robots, and they think of Asahi. They remember all the sweet moments they shared with him, and that memory fills them with strength. They use magic to send their feelings to Asahi, then rush back into the fight with everything they have left. Asahi is in the library when he suddenly gets messages from Irina and Karen. He's worried they're in trouble and cries out for them, but there's no time to waste. The robots have surrounded the library. In this moment of crisis, Amelia stays calm and decides she'll sacrifice herself to protect Asahi. She kisses him goodbye and opens a secret passage under his feet. Asahi calls out her name in surprise, but he's sucked into the passage before he can say more. Asahi is really worried about Amelia's safety when he meets Aoi. Before he can say anything, Aoi jumps in and explains everything. Aoi tells him that she woke up AI's memories, and AI lost control because of how strongly she loved Asahi. AI wanted to keep Asahi with her, so she acted in a way that hurt the other girls. Now, with the deaths of the girls on her mind, Aoi regrets everything. She says she no longer wants to possess Asahi and just wants him to understand AI's feelings because she feels sorry for her. With Aoi's help, Asahi sees AI's memories. AI had grown up with Asahi, and always had a secret crush on him. One time, they went shopping together, and AI saw a beautiful necklace she liked but couldn't afford. Asahi, seeing what was in her heart, bought the necklace for her as a gift. AI was so happy, but right after that, she started feeling dizzy. She didn't tell Asahi because she didn't want him to worry. When she got home, she fainted and was taken to the hospital. The doctor told her she had a fatal illness and didn't have long to live. AI was crushed by the news and felt hopeless. Her only wish was to see the cherry blossoms with Asahi because they cars on Mindshara, Repair Furenbream promised to get married under the trees when they grew up. But AI was stuck in the hospital and couldn't make her wish come true. Asahi feels AI's sadness and takes a long time to calm down. Aoi tells him that AI's consciousness is still in the VR world. With Aoi's help, Asahi rushes through another passage to find AI under a cherry tree. When Asahi sees her, he's so happy to see her again, and he hugs her. But the first thing AI says is that she wants him to forget her, because she doesn't want him to be stuck in painful memories. Asahi refuses to forget her. He tells her that she's always been a big part of his life, and even if she's not physically there, he'll keep the memories of her in his heart forever. As he speaks, he gets more emotional, and finally tells AI that he loves her. Touched by his words, AI can't hold back her emotions anymore. She starts crying and confesses that she also loves Asahi. The cherry tree they promised to marry under appears, and AI kisses Asahi lovingly. Sweet memories flood into her mind, and she feels happy and peaceful. AI knows that the only way Asahi can move on is for her to leave. After a final farewell, AI slowly disappears into the air, leaving only her necklace behind. Asahi accepts her departure and knows she will always live in his memory. Eventually, Asahi returns to the real world with Aoi's help. Since Aoi is no longer out of control, the Institute ends the program that was going to destroy the AI world, and everything goes back to normal. Feynman is made the director of the Institute for stopping the disaster. She continues her research on AI and has a surprise for Asahi. By now, Asahi has started a new life at university. When he gets 4 packages from Feynman, he's shocked to see Amelia, Karen, Irina, and Monfa come out. Feynman had repaired the AI girls and given them bodies. The girls move into Asahi's home, and they all start living together. At the same time, Aoi also gets her body and comes to Asahi's door. Their happy life begins, and even though the anime ends here, the surprises never stop. At first, I thought this was just a harem anime, but it turned out to be a touching love story full of surprises. That's why I love it, and that's why you'll love it too. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you do not miss out on any of our daily uploads.